Today we're going to talk about the Ford Motor Company and the supply chain strategy. We are Group 3. My name is Kirsten, and in our presentation we'll also have Marcos, Chen, Caesar, and David. So today we're going to talk about the general issues in the case. We're going to talk about the main stakeholders affected by the company and the case. We're going to talk about different theories and concepts as related to the reading. We're going to talk about symptoms and problems, alternatives and evaluation criteria, best solutions and implementation plan, evaluation and review of the project, and then lastly, current status update of Ford as it is today.
Some of the general issues for Ford. Facts. In 1903, Ford was the second largest industrial corporation in the world, with revenues of more than $144 billion and about 370,000 employees. Operations span over 200 countries. In 1995, Ford had embarked on an ambitious restructuring plan called Ford 2000. From 1995 to 1997, Ford launched a public internet site, a company-wide intranet, a business-to-business capability, and an automotive network exchange with some, car manufacturing. In 1998, Ford amassed a profit of $6.9 billion. That's a lot. Employees enjoyed record profit sharing, a return of sales of 3.9% in 1997, and the company was the world's leader in production of trucks. In 1990, Ford shifted towards long-term relationships, placing some of the suppliers into tier systems. Ford challenges: the use of emerging technologies, i.e. the internet, and ideas for new high-tech industrial to change the way it interacted with suppliers, to improve and reduce production times while dramatically lowering the cost of developing and building cars, to make processes and products globally commonly help to improve Ford's production, to mitigate risks associated with the new plan implementation.
So for the theories and concepts, what we felt related most to the case is going to be managing sources of implementation risk. Ford sought to change its manufacturing system from a push to pull system using vertical integration with their suppliers to decrease cost and increase efficiency and profits. While implementing this plan, Ford needs to manage its sources of risk by defining its project size, which can be talked about in the scope of a project. So the larger the size, the more risk numbers it's going to have. The experience with technology, so how familiar everyone is with the technology, and if they're less familiar with it or if they are more familiar with it, that can increase the numbers of risk factors involved. For requirements validity, if you have unclear requirements or deadlines, that again will increase the number of risk factors involved. Every time you add another risk factor, you're going to be doubling the amount of risk that is involved in your project. For Ford's project size, it's going to involve 6 main groups. So it's going to be their suppliers, their manufacturers, their marketing, their distribution, their IT departments, and their customers. For their experience with technology, that's going to vary depending on where the project implementation is. So Ford itself can quickly adapt to the new technologies because it has the cost ability and it has the time ability to teach its people to do that. Where they move out in their tier system, that's where they're going to run into more problems. The farther out they go into that tier system, the less adaptability each of those suppliers is going to have in the technology, and therefore increasing the risk in their project. And then lastly, the requirements validity. So they're going to make it manageable to an extent because they have control over implementation. So they can enact the deadlines. They can say, I want this done at this time or you're going to pay this penalty. So they have more ability to reduce the risk factors because they have such a high level of control.
Now I will introduce you the main stakeholders. The internal stakeholders is vehicle centers, IT departments, marketing departments, employees, purchasing organization, and other Ford car brands. External stakeholders is Chrysler and General Motors, Automotive Network Exchange, Sweden's Volvo, customers, suppliers, and Republic.
For the problems and symptoms, we have an increasing overcapacity of the auto industry. This is created by high competition from overseas automakers, creating over 20 million more vehicles per year. Our decision criteria for this is to increase the share in the market by the year 2000. We also have a high working capital and exposure to inventory obsolescence, along with low market capitalizations compared to small companies and a slow 5 years average revenue and stock price growth. All this is being caused for different problems. Some of those are the lack of a vertical integration on four supply chain, a business model that is not taking advantage of the new internet technologies, and poor forecasting that is not taking into account dealerships' input. And also very important, they were doing a push instead of a pull model. The decision criteria for this was to create growth and revenue by the year 2000. There's also another symptom, which is a high supply chain cost and a very complex interaction with suppliers. This is being created by a large and redundant global supplier base, a very inefficient distribution network, suppliers and customers that are not vertically integrated into Ford's information system, and suppliers being primarily chosen or picked based on cost and not on overall supply chain cost. The decision criteria for this one is to reduce the supply chain cost and increase the profit per vehicle value by the year 2000. Also, we have another symptom, which is a lower on-time delivery that is taking between 45 and 60 days instead of what Ford wants, which is 15 days to deliver a new vehicle. This is being caused by several problems. For example, bottlenecks through the supply chain, including marketing, material planning, vehicle production, and transportation processes. There's also a lack of a dedicated retail vehicle distribution system. Finally, we have another symptom, which is an organizational and process redundancies. This is created by a very limited information flow by geographic constraints and limited use of IT. The decision criteria for this one is to make processes and products globally common and have teams able to effectively work together regardless of their location. For the different alternatives and evaluations criteria, we have three. The first one being to keep Ford's supply chain horizontal. The pros for this strategy or this alternative is that it's already in place. Suppliers are already familiarized with the Ford's model. There's a value on the economies of scale, and Ford has a very strong bargaining power. The cons for this alternative are that the global supply cannot be linked. Suppliers' performance can be different depending on the region. Suppliers have also different systems that will need to adapt to Ford. It's going to be very expensive to sustain, and it's not scalable. There's also the second alternative we have is the vertical integration of Ford supply chain. There are multiple pros for this strategy, which is to reduce the supply chain cost, increase the forecasting accuracy, improve the on-time delivery and the product quality, increase the revenue and the stock price, increase the information flow efficiency, have less organizational and process redundancies, simplify the interaction with suppliers, and decentralize the purchasing process. The cons for this is that it's going to take a large investment in IT infrastructures. It's going to take an extended time. There's high risk that the IT is becoming obsolete, higher information security risks, and the influence of the purchasing organization is going to be reduced on the key business decisions. There's also a need of large commitment of resources. The third alternative we have is to create a hybrid integration with Tier 1 and Tier 2 suppliers. The pros for this alternative is that it's going to transpose the risk of Tier 2 suppliers to Tier 1 suppliers. And it's going to be less expensive to implement than a complete virtual integration. The cons for this is that we're going to have lack of control over tier 2 integration, and there's going to be a high risk of supply chain failure.
So Ford's implementation plan will be to refocus design, change marketing plan, reformat manufacturing, and modify the dealer network. This will take place within the scope of 4 years, each one taking 4 years on its own. So to refocus its design, and you'll need to figure out how this new plan will form around the wants of the customers. To change its marketing plan, it's going to need to decide how to make better marketing for Ford products while shaping the products for better manufacturing. To reformat manufacturing, it's going to need to change where orders are received and make orders only to fill demand. And also need to modify its dealer network. Will change from independent dealers to company-controlled dealers. Evaluating Ford's vertical integration, Ford was able to provide a better overall customer experience through its order to delivery. Through this integration, Ford relied on forecasting from its dealers, and it also reduced the wait time for customers' orders considerably. Also, through its Ford retail network, through their purchase of independent dealers, Ford was able to create a uniform vision for their own personally owned dealers. This uniformity allowed for better efficiencies, cost savings, and better usage of the internet. Ford was able to provide a better quality, higher customer satisfaction, offer wider variety, and better productivity while lowering their costs.
So the last thing that we're going to talk about is the current status of Ford. Forbes ranked them number 138 on their list of world's best employers, number 49 on the top regarded companies list, and number 42 on the world's most valuable brands list. They have a current annual revenue of $159.6 billion, assets of $267.2 billion, and profits of $7.8 billion for the current year. Ford has acquired 9 companies over the years, the most recent being Translock on January 25th, 2018. This company will enable them to have real-time passenger information services. They have currently 181 different tech products, and they use Google Analytics, Apache Web Server, and Venmo. And they have developed multiple apps. Their download frequency has increased by 15.67% over the last 30 days. And they have predicted to spend $2.7 billion on IT tech and services. The chart on the side does show their stock prices over the years, and it shows the ups and downs of the company. And thank you.